Thank you for joining today. I'm Ryan Neiman, Sports District Radio here. Follow us on Twitter at SDistrict Radio. We are on the web at sportsu.com. Like us on Facebook at Sports District Radio. I am Ryan Neiman. This is Sports Talk with an Edge. Today we are talking about the NBA lottery that happened last night. A shocker as again and again, can you believe it, for the third time in 4 years, the Cavs have the top pick in the NBA draft, and they had a 1.7% chance of that happening, a 2.4% chance of landing one of the top 3 picks in the NBA draft. People are already saying conspiracy theories, folks, are already calling for that. The top 3 players are said to be Duke's Jabari Parker, along with Kansas product Joel Embiid and Andrew Wiggins. Talking about the NBA draft lottery right now is featured columnist from Bleacher Report, Alfred Kanua. How you doing today, Alfred?
How's it going, man?
Doing excellent. Thanks again for joining today. And what was your initial reaction from the NBA lottery from last night?
I was pretty surprised that Cleveland had gotten another number 1 overall pick. Not necessarily because I didn't expect that team to get it, but it's just pretty rare to see a team pretty much have a number 1 overall pick dynasty as the Cleveland Cavaliers had. And also the big news out here in LA, I'm here locally, is the Los Angeles Lakers sinking down to 7th.
And the number 1 overall picks have produced an average of 33.9 wins in the 5 seasons following their pick, as compared to 22.3 for number 2 overall selections. Is having the number 1 draft pick really that important for a team?
No, it's not. And I'll add to your statistic, which is a great stat, is that only one guy, which is Tim Duncan, since the draft lottery began in the era since 1985, Tim Duncan's the only guy who got drafted and won a championship for his team, because usually these teams like Cleveland, like the Milwaukee Bucks, they're places people don't want to go, so they're bound to their contract, and as soon as they build their careers and build their brand, they blow. They take the first thing out of town. So, yeah, I can see the NBA trying to make it as fair as possible and giving these low-market teams and these suffering teams a chance. But the draft lottery and the way that they try to draft, it doesn't create too much parity.
And did you happen to see the Bucks owner's daughter last night throughout the draft yesterday?
Well, me and the rest of Twitter saw her.
That was the one thing I kept on rewinding just to see her talk.
And in full disclosure, we've talked off the air about this before, and even on here, is that I'm a Milwaukee guy. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I lived long enough there to become a Milwaukee Bucks fan. So it was a very proud moment in an era that has not been too proud for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Do you think the Bucks were somewhat angry for not receiving that first overall pick?
If there were still Bucks fans who care about the team, yes. But number 2 is pretty good, especially considering how loaded this draft is going to be. I really do think that there is a little bit of a separation between the stars in this draft, but not so much to where the Bucks are going to be upset and whoever is in the top 3 is going to be upset. I think if you've gotten the top 3 or 4, you should be very happy.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have yet to name their replacement for their head coach when they fired Mike Brown at the end of the season. Does this change of who they might take in this year's draft?
I don't think it will. I think this is just going to be another kind of domino to fall, but they really need to get that house in order, because the Cleveland Cavaliers, if they're going to win now, they need to start enticing free agents. You do that with a capable coach, and you do that with some superstars. So if they really do plan to make a bid for Kevin Love, if they really are going to get this thing together to try to get LeBron to come back, they're going to need to work to get a name who they feel, maybe Mark Jackson, maybe Mike Dunleavy, I've heard his name thrown out there. There is a coaching carousel out there right now. Maybe they're waiting for the playoffs to shake down to see who loses their job there. So the Cavaliers, I think, need to get a head coach sooner than later, and one that's a big name.
I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but everybody, especially in the NBA draft, call for conspiracy theories when it comes to the NBA draft lottery, especially when the Cavs only had a 1.7 chance of this happening. Everybody's calling for a fix yet again. What's your opinion on this?
I I mean, the reason that there is such a conspiracy theory is because the tone that was set with the 85 draft lottery was the most probably notorious, quote-unquote, fixed the draft lottery, to where people accuse the NBA of rigging that thing. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of the draft. And now we're in this era where the internet is king, and that's all you see on the internet is all these conspiracy theories. I'm not one of these conspiracy theorists. I think if there was a draft lottery conspiracy, the Cavaliers would be the last team, I would think, to get 3 out of 4 number 1 picks. They're snake-bitten as ever. And the fact that they haven't done very much with the number 1 picks they've gotten, you'd think that the NBA would say, you know what, you guys take a step back, we're going to give this to somebody else. And the Lakers wouldn't be down to number 7 if this was rigged. And the Spurs one year got Tim Duncan and David Robinson. So just, it's too random, and I just don't think that there's a conspiracy going on.
Even with their botched pick from last year with Anthony Bennett, you think they're giving Cleveland a second chance?
I mean, I wouldn't consider that a botched pick as much as a botched draft class. I mean, that draft class will go down as one of the worst in NBA history. I would be willing to guess that Michael Carter-Williams of the Philadelphia 76ers may be the only guy to ever make an All-Star game out of that class. So there really was very little you could work with in that class. I don't see that.
For the Cavaliers, the likely departure of free agent Luol Deng, and the Cavs' most pressing need is for a skilled small forward who can shoot. Yet Cleveland does have Tristan Thompson and Anderson Varejao up front. Who do you think the Cavs take with that number 1 pick?
Well, I mean, Joel Embiid is out there, and they have expressed interest in him. He is a 7-footer, which scares me, and he has had some whispers of injury concerns. Jabari Parker does fit that, and I think he can fit that small forward mode, as well as Andrew Wiggins, who would be a little more of a project in that role. But I really do see the Cleveland Cavaliers, if they're serious about getting good immediately, trading away that pick. I know that there are, like I said, whispers about Joel Embiid having back problems, but if the Cavs take him, he's going to have back problems. It's just how Cleveland is wired, to just be snake-bitten and to be cursed. So I think it might behoove them to trade that away and try to go after Kevin Love.
So this is the second.
That really worked out for them lately.
This is the second year in a row where the Cavs have the number 1 draft pick. How does this help the chance of perhaps LeBron returning to Cleveland, or you think those rumors are really hogwash?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily hogwash. It's all going to depend on Cleveland putting its best foot forward, not only with the head coach, but let's say Andrew Wiggins stands out. And right now he is being promoted as this future superstar. So if they take an Andrew Wiggins and he ends up just being a very, very good player and the potential is there, and right now you could consider him somewhat of a superstar, especially with those pictures coming out of him and his vertical and just all this excitement about him. LeBron might look at that situation and say, I've got 2 of the best young players in the NBA to play with. I'm 29 years old. If I ever want to even come close to catching Jordan, I'm not going to do it on this old Miami Heat team. So if you do that and you get a head coach who's capable, then that's a team that could have another dynasty. I just think it's all going to depend on how well Cleveland presents itself through free agency and possibly the draft.
And looking at the overall lottery picks, Cavs obviously had the number 1 pick. Bucks were at 2, 76ers 3, Magic was the 4th pick. Jazz had the 5th, Celtics came at 6, Lakers surprisingly at 7, Kings at 8, Hornets at 9, 76ers at 10, Nuggets at 11, Magic at 12, and Wolves at 13, and the Suns closed it out at 14. Of all those slots, were you surprised at any of them?
I don't know if surprise would be the right word, but I want to go back to the Lakers falling to number 7, just based on what the hope was at the beginning of the season, which was the Lakers had one of the easiest mission statements that I could ever remember in the NBA. They had a GM who had job security. Nobody was going to fire Mr. Kupchak. It was a rough year already. So all they had to do, don't overpay for Kobe Bryant and, don't win the majority of your games. And they couldn't even do that correctly. They overpaid for Kobe Bryant, and down the stretch they won games that they weren't supposed to, wink, wink. So now they're in this position where they can't go out and get multiple elite free agents, and they fell in the draft to number 7 when they really realistically could have been a top 3 pick given the roster that they had and all those one-year contracts that they signed in the offseason. So I'm pretty surprised in hindsight looking at how badly the Lakers botched what could have been a year for reloading, because now they're going to rebuild, and that's not very familiar territory for the Lakers.
Yeah, they were projected to be a top 5 pick. What does this mean for them that they weren't able to perhaps grab that top 5 pick?
They're going to be bad for a long time because they needed a transcendent player to help bridge that gap between rebuilding and reloading. If they had an Andrew Wiggins, then they would have been enticing to a free agent. Maybe if they're able to get Marcus Smart, I think Marcus Smart is going to overachieve and be better than where he's drafted. But even that is a bit of a stretch. So I think what this means for the Lakers is they're going to go in an uncharacteristically long time without making the playoffs or being relevant for a franchise that really before this averaged an NBA championship appearance every other year.
It's still early. We're about a month and a half away from the NBA draft to actually begin. Are there any top 10 draft picks that you are completely not sold on just yet?
Yeah, I would have to go with either Julius Randle, who I'm 50-50. I go up and down with this guy every day, but whenever I think that way about somebody, I just didn't see enough from him to think that he is NBA ready. I think he's the opposite of Jabari Parker, who seems like he may have been too big for the college game, and his game will adjust much better in the pro. And then Joel Embiid, simply because of his injury concerns, and 7 footers, you're just not meant to be that tall. It's not natural to be 7 feet tall, and whenever we see these 7 footers, whether it's Andrew Bynum, Dwight Howard, whenever we see these really big guys, they tend to be injury prone, and that alone could translate to being a bust.
And before the NBA lottery was announced for which teams received the pick, Kevin Love announced himself that he will not renegotiate with the Minnesota Timberwolves after this season, which will likely create a frenzy if he does hit free agency. Now he's looking to perhaps be traded out of Minnesota. How did certain draft slots impact the future of Kevin Love, who really wants to leave Minnesota?
It's huge. The way the draft fell, the Cleveland Cavaliers GM said that his phone was blowing up immediately after that was announced, from all kinds of teams wondering whether or not he could trade that draft pick, what he's going to do with that. So I think it immediately moved Cleveland up to the front of the slot as the surprise frontrunner in the Kevin Love sweepstakes. I think it's theirs to lose. There are, of course, other teams in top positions, but Kevin Love's not going to Milwaukee. Cleveland is one of those teams where he wants to win, he goes to Cleveland, and he can win for a long time, because Kevin Love, as we've seen in Minnesota, he's not the type of player who's going to carry a team to victory. He's not going to carry them to the playoffs. He's got more of a complementary skill set, so if he's there with the Deion Waiters and possibly Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, and Kyrie Irving, then he's going to be able to be on a squad where his skills can be more of a Chris Bosh role, and he can help fortify a dynasty, possibly.
Do you think he'll be traded before the season begins?
I do not. I think it's going to come too close, and I think maybe an all-star break situation, but I think right now Cleveland is on the right track to kind of shop around and see what they can get out of this first pick. I don't think he's going to be traded before the season. I think he's going to just kind of have to wait it out there.
One of the funniest moments I thought about the NBA lottery last night was Doc Irving's reaction to the 76ers draft slot. And when the Cavaliers GM hit him on the shoulders, he looked absolutely angry, perturbed as to the certain draft slots for the 76ers, despite having the 2 top 14 picks. Shouldn't he be more happy?
He absolutely should. Maybe that's just the competitive side of Doc coming out. He just wanted to be number 1. But, yeah, I mean, they got Michael Carter-Williams to build around, and having 2 top 14 picks in this draft is going to be amazing. And they're the type of team that's not going to be necessarily a safe haven for free agents. So they're going to have to take the Washington Wizards or Portland Trailblazer model of building from the inside out, building the team through draft picks, and then maybe filling the bench with veterans. But I think Doc should be absolutely very happy with what they got. And this is a team that can, I think, in a couple of years, along with Detroit, who I think is in the right direction now that they have Stan Van Gundy in a presidential and head coaching role, I think these teams, as the Heat are phased out in the Eastern Conference, are going to be on the upswing.
Before I let you go, you mentioned that you are a big WWE fan. And Mick Foley, that big name out there, has said that he wants Vince McMahon, Triple H, and Stephanie McMahon should hide their faces for a little while because their stock is so low right now. He thinks that they're impacting the stock. Do you agree with what he's saying right now?
Mick Foley's one of the smartest wrestling guys, in history. One of the smartest guys in history. Best-selling author, very articulate. But I completely disagree. I think the opposite is affecting WWE stock. It's a behind-the-scenes issue, ironically enough. It's the guy, Vince McMahon, who hasn't been on TV, who I think has hurt the stock by coming out with these bold predictions. There's two reasons that the WWE stock tumbled. One was the WWE Network came out with their subscription number, which Vince McMahon boldly predicted was supposed to be 1 million subscribers. And it came out to be about 670,000. So that, beleaguered consumer confidence in WWE stock. Then WWE was supposed to double or triple their television rights deal with USA Network, which is something else that Vince McMahon predicted in an investor meeting. And, of course, those numbers came out. They were good numbers, but they were not double or triple what they were supposed to get. So that kind of, that's just kind of said, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, and they sold their stock. So I think it's a Vince McMahon issue behind the scenes more than it is wrestlers in front of the scenes.
And if you had to choose a name if you're in a WWE, what would your name be if you had to choose one?
That's a great question. Maybe I'd just stick with Big Nasty. You can't go wrong with that.
What would be your signature move, the throwdown, or what would be your signature move for you?
That's a great question. The super ugly. I just always like that term. How about the super ugly?
That's what I call my mom, but that's another story.
Oh, no!
But Alfred, thanks again for joining today, talking about the NBA lottery and what is expected to happen. Where can everybody find you on the web?
Follow me on Twitter @ThisIsNasty. Go on Bleacher Report, read my articles, and watch my videos.
All right, Alfred, thanks again for joining. Have a great one.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks. That was Alfred Kanoa from Bleacher Report joining us right now, talking about the NBA lottery and what's expected to come in the next month and a half, and what his predictions are, who the number one pick is going to be for the Cleveland Cavaliers. In my opinion, I really don't think that they should go after Joel Embiid. His back injury really does scare me. I think you really should go after the best talent, and I think that's Andrew Wiggins or Jabari Parker, but I love Wiggins. Joel Embiid's back just really does scare me, and he just reminds me a lot of another person they drafted last year, Anthony Bennett. But we have more coming up. We have a mock draft of the NBA draft. Jay Sanchez from J No Sports will be joining us right after this. We are back, Sports District Radio, SDR. Follow us on Twitter at SDistrict Radio, Sports Talk with an Edge. Like us on Facebook at Sports District Radio. I am Ryan Neiman. We are talking about the NBA lottery predictions of what's going to happen right now with Jay Sanchez from J No Sports is joining us right now. How you doing today, Jay?
Good, Ryan. Thanks.
Thanks for joining today, and before we dive in, we're going to do a mock draft today of the NBA draft that's happening in a month and a half from us. What was your initial reaction from the overall NBA lottery?
first reaction is that the Cavaliers got really lucky, and they have a chance to fix the mess they made last year when they drafted Anthony Bennett, as you mentioned earlier. They made a dumb trade for Luol Deng, gave up a future first-round pick, and that didn't pan out. And they also fired Mike Brown a year after they signed him to a 5-year deal. So they got really lucky, and they have a chance to fix the mess they made last year.
Do you think that they can fix that mess after that just dreadful pick with Anthony Bennett? Because that's kind of hard to come back from, even though they will have that number 1 pick.
As a lot of people know, this is one of the deeper drafts, one of the most talented drafts in a long time. So they could easily pick an impact player, someone like Wiggins or Parker or Embiid, and make the playoffs, actually, as opposed to last year when they didn't.
Yeah, I was looking at the NBA draft last season, and previous guest Alfred was talking about it. There's really nobody. We're looking at this list right now. What players do you think will be still well known in this league? We have Trey Burke, who made a name of himself last year. Tim Hardaway Jr., who was okay. Victor Oladipo. You're not sure what you're going to get from Norrens Noel as well. You have Ben McLemore, who I thought was that band that's on the 103.5 station, but this is probably one of the worst drafts I can remember in recent years.
Yeah, and looking back at it, maybe they wanted, in hindsight, maybe they should have drafted someone like Victor Oladipo, because he brings that defensive effort that the Cavaliers lacked last year, and he finished second in the Rookie of the Year rank. So, I think that they obviously made a big mistake signing Bennett. I don't know what happened. I can't see him being actually a serviceable player in the future. But as I mentioned, Andrew Wiggins, Jabari Parker, or Joel Embiid can change the future of that team.
Yeah, this will be a much better draft this year. I'm going to just remind everybody of the top 5 picks from last season, and let's see if they're even relevant right now. We have Anthony Bennett, who didn't even play at all last season. Victor Oladipo, Otto Porter.
Oh my god!
I didn't even know he went that high.
Did he play?
Is he still alive? Cody Zeller went 4th to the Bobcats. He's got potential, but not the right fit for a team. And Alex Lynn on the Phoenix Suns. Just one of the worst drafts. I can't wait for this draft because of how awful this one was. But we're going to be doing a mock draft, as Cleveland, as we mentioned, has the number 1 draft pick. Had a 1.7 chance of landing those odds of getting that pick. Jay, I talked with this about Alfred. Do you believe in conspiracy theories? Can lightning really hit twice in one spot?
I am one to believe in conspiracy theories, especially for the NBA draft. You can look back recently when the New Orleans Pelicans, the NBA sold their team to Tom Benson, and all of a sudden they were rewarded with the number 1 pick as well, and they ended up getting Anthony Davis. Also, I feel like, as being in Chicago, and I'm happy that we got Derrick Rose, but I can feel that could have been rigged as well, because Chicago's a big market team, and at the time their future was in the rut. They had guys like Ben Gordon, Kirk Heinrich leading the team. Their team was going nowhere, and look what happens. They bring a hometown kid, and now the city of Chicago is very happy to have a hometown kid on their team, and now they have a really good, solid team for the future.
Speaking of Ben Gordon, the Pistons were knocked out of the entire first 14 picks because they traded for Ben Gordon this year, which made them not have... They traded for Ben Gordon and Corey Maggette, which knocked them out of the top 14 draft pick. So at least some teams are in a better direction than the Pistons are.
Yeah, they're definitely kicking themselves right now.
So we're going to give a mock draft for the top 10 picks in the 2014 NBA draft. Number 1, Cleveland Cavaliers will be the first pick. I think, regardless of everybody wants to take Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker, I think they go big here, and they get that Joel Embiid center out of Kansas.
That's a great pick. I have to respectfully disagree with you. I think that they're going to draft Andrew Wiggins. You can go 50-50 between Andrew Wiggins and Jabari Parker, but I feel like Wiggins is better defensively. He's a better finisher. He's more athletic than Jabari, and so which makes for a higher ceiling than Jabari Parker. the Cavs don't have any depth at small forward. Luol Deng is going to be a free agent. Alonzo G and CJ Miles as well. So they have a glaring hole at small forward. But as you mentioned, Joel Embiid, they do need some help at size. Spencer Hawes is going to be a free agent as well, but there are reports that the Cavs want to re-up a deal with him. But also Anderson Varejao is on a contract year next year, so I could see why the Cavs could get Joel Embiid as well. But I think they're going to get Andrew Wiggins.
How about Andrew Bynum? Maybe they re-sign Andrew Bynum, and then they go for Jabari Parker or Andrew Wiggins as their first pick. But number 2, Milwaukee Bucks, who looked pretty angry. I mean, the daughter was gorgeous. Jay, what was your opinion about that daughter?
I mean, I'm sure thousands of other people thought she was gorgeous because apparently her Twitter account gained at least like 10,000 more followers after that draft.
I put her on pause on my TV screen for a good hour and a half. And then I finally rewatched the draft. But number 2 pick, the Milwaukee Bucks, had the selection. I think they really go Andrew Wiggins here. The right fit. The best player, I believe, in the draft. And I think that's who the Bucks take here.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with the top 3. Milwaukee Bucks will be happy either way with whoever they pick. But I think they're going to get Joel Embiid with this pick. He's one of the most athletic 7-foot prospects ever in the draft. They signed Zaza Pachulia, who they signed last year, to be their starting center, but I think he's best reserved as a backup. There are scouts that think that Embiid is going to turn into the next Hakeem Olajuwon, which I'm not going to agree with, because I feel that Hakeem Olajuwon, no one can compare offensively to Hakeem Olajuwon. He has best footwork, best offensive game ever. I feel like he can be a better version of Al Jefferson offensively. But what I do agree with what scouts say is that he has the floor of Serge Ibaka. So even if his offensive game doesn't translate, which probably won't happen, he'll be a great offensive player. Defensively, he has the ability to change games a la Serge Ibaka for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
76ers have that 3rd pick. Now, I am not going to go Jabari Parker here. I think either Jabari Parker or Andrew Wiggins are going to be the bust of the draft. One of them is not going to pan out in the NBA. That's my prediction. And I think Jabari Parker will be that player that will not pan out. That's why I think the 76ers will go Dante Exum here. They really need a point guard. Scouts love him overseas. He's from Australia. And they don't need a small forward here. They have Michael Carter-Williams. And they really need somebody to help them out at the point.
That's really a risky move there. I feel like that could potentially happen. But I think the 76ers, with how bad they've been, especially this year, they're going to go safe and take Jabari Parker. In my mind, I think he's the best scorer and the most NBA-ready player in the draft. They have guys like Michael Carter-Williams, as you mentioned. They have Nerlens Noel at center. And getting a wing player like Parker will be give them a great core of a very young talent moving forward.
So you think they're set at point with Tony Wooten?
Michael Carter-Williams played point last year, and I feel like they're going to give him another try this year, see how that pans out.
Number 4, you have the Orlando Magic with that pick. This is where I think Jabari Parker is going to go, even though Victor Oladipo is there, and they also have Aaron Aflalo here as well. But I think that they go talent-wise here, and not size, which they desperately need.
I'm going with Dante Exum here. He's not the most NBA-ready player due to the competition he faced, but he'll be 19 when the season starts, and the Magic are a long ways away of being a playoff contender, so he has a lot of time to grow. Scouts say that he has a great basketball IQ, and his measurables for a guard will grow him into a lockdown defender in the future. He's 6'6" with a 6'9" wingspan. And we know that he can break down defenders and create offense, finish at the hoop, but the question is, will he play point guard? That's the position that he prefers. Jameer Nelson is a free agent this year, so they are in need of one. Number 2 pick from last year, both Victor Oladipo tried that last year, but realized that he's best suited as a combo guard. So the Magic will hope Exum can be the point guard of the future. But what I know now is that if they draft Exum, they'll have a great defensive backcourt for years to come with Oladipo and himself.
Oladipo's my favorite name in basketball, by the way.
I agree.
I like banging drums when I hear his name. Number 5, the Utah Jazz have the selection. They want to build a team around Gordon Hayward. I think they want to replace somebody like Paul Millsap, who they gave up to Atlanta Hawks. This is why I think they go with the power forward from Arizona, Aaron Gordon. Tremendous passer, actually, for his size as well. And was a stud rebounding for Arizona. What the Utah Jazz needs ever since letting Paul Millsap go.
Yeah, great point. Great passer. And very athletic, good rebounder. And he's also arguably the best defender in the country outside of Joel Embiid. He helped turn Arizona into one of the best defensive teams in the country. The Jazz drafted Trey Burke last year. They signed Derek Favors to a long-term deal. They have Enes Kanter. So they could use a forward, especially since Gordon Hayward may walk this year and Marvin Williams is a free agent. So Gordon is kind of a tweener. You could work him in as small forward or power forward when using a small lineup. So, and especially with the Jazz, who finished 25th in total defense last year, they could use the likes of Gordon, who was a great defender back in college.
At number 6, Boston Celtics. This is an interesting slot for the Celtics, as they are desperately, or not desperately, but they want to trade for Kevin Love. They might trade this pick to perhaps trade for Kevin Love. This is a very interesting pick. Everybody's saying that they need a power forward, a center, but I don't think they go that way. I think Brad Stevens wants to develop Kelly Olynyk a little bit more, even though he looks like a Keebler elf, like he's making cookies for me. I think they really go for a scorer at this position and a rebounder. And this is my shocker of the draft. I think they go with Julius Randle right here.
Wow, and this is your shocker when you said Dante Exum would go number 3. I totally agree with you. They don't need size. I mean, I feel like they're going to let Kelly Olynyk, develop more. I don't think they should replace him. I feel that they're going to go after Marcus Smart. The Celtics are kind of in need of guards. Avery Bradley is a free agent, and Rajon Rondo could potentially leave next year when his contract is up and play for a contender. So Smart has a capability to supplant Rondo when he leaves, or he could play alongside Rondo this year as a combo guard. He's a physically imposing 6'3", who can get to the rim. His outside shooting needs some work, but that's basically his only downfall on the court. But Boss, as you mentioned, yeah, they could use size, but someone like Julius Randle, as you mentioned, or Noah Vonleh. But they drafted Kelly Olynyk, they drafted Jared Sullinger the year before, so let them develop. The real hole is at guard. I think they're going to draft Marcus Smart.
Now here's where I think Marcus Smart's going to go. I think he's going to LA Lakers at number 7. They really need somebody to uplift this franchise, bring some energy to this franchise. Kobe's on his way out. Marcus Smart, not really that developed yet, very immature for his age, but they need some noise in LA. Get that fans back into it. And I think Marcus Smart is the right fit. They need help scoring. They really have no scoring. And who do they got right now? Jordan Farmar. You really want him as your point guard going forward. Steve Nash. His career is pretty much over. Back injuries. You need somebody like Marcus Smart to help spread that floor open for Kobe Bryant. And I think it would be a perfect fit to play alongside Paul Gasol as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't agree that the Lakers are going to pick him, but I agree that Marcus Smart's a really electrifying athlete, and they need... they're pretty much old at every position, so they could use some youth, especially at the point guard position. Someone like Smart is a great pick. But I have the Lakers going after Noah Vonleh, 6'10" power forward out of Indiana. His stock is rising after the combine, after checking out his measurables. He's 6'10" with a 7'4" wingspan. He has huge hands. He needs to bulk up a little bit, but he has a lot of offensive tools. He has a solid post game where he can shoot with both hands. Great footwork to go along with an efficient jump shot. So he'll only be 20 years old when the season starts, but he has a great offensive foundation to build off of, which can only get better through time, which is kind of scary. I feel like he could be one of the big steals of the draft, and that's why I kind of have him ahead of Julius Randle in this draft.
At number 8, Sacramento Kings. They have Isaiah Thomas in place at point guard. I don't think they go point guard here. I really don't think they go big here. They have DeMarcus Cousins underneath there. One of my favorite players. The little boogeyman. I love him. I really think they need help on defense. A lot of people are not sold on this player. but I am watching Missouri Valley Conference games all season long. I think they take Creighton's small forward, Doug McDermott here, 6'8". I think he's a great scorer, very underrated, very underappreciated too by a lot of scouts and NBA teams. He reminds me a lot of a slightly poor version of Gordon Hayward, but I think he really has that upside due to his height, and I think it would be a great fit for Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great prospect, Doug McDermott. Yeah, as you mentioned, really underappreciated. But I see them going after Julius Randle with this pick. The Kings have been looking for a few years now to pair up a guy with DeMarcus Cousins, and I feel if Randle falls to them, they'll be very happy. This will give them one of the most physical front courts in the league for a very long time. Randle led the league and led the NCAA in double-doubles. He's very athletic. He can run the court. He's quick for his size, which really contributed to his face-up game. Great free throw shooter, and he has a good-looking shot to where he could develop a consistent mid-range shot. But he needs to polish up his post offense to take his game to the next level. But if Randle were to fall to them, the Kings will be happy to select him.
And in every draft, there's always that mistake pick. The team in the top 10, there's always a team that picks the dumbest pick. And this is when I think it's going to happen. At the number 9 with the Charlotte Hornets, who received it from Detroit. Did you know they changed their name the other day from New Orleans Hornets? I mean, to the
Hornets from the Bobcats.
Yeah, the Charlotte Bobcats. Whatever. Anyways, see, this is why it made me sound stupid. This is how dumb this pick is going to be. I think this is such a mess team. When I look at this team on paper, it's just a mess. You got Anthony Davis though, but it just looks like a bunch of crap. And this is why I think this is where they will take a bad pick here. I think we're going to agree here that I think they're going to go with Nick Stauskas at this pick from Michigan.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have them taking Nick Stauskas.
I'm sorry, Charlotte Bobcats.
They're the Charlotte Hornets this season. They were the Charlotte Bobcats. It's going to be hard to get adjusting to, but I feel like there's a good move changing their name to the Charlotte Hornets. But yeah, as you mentioned, Nick Stauskas, we agree. There's a second pick I think we have agreed on. But I feel that the Hornets need to draft a perimeter shooter to help the dynamic of the Hornets offense. Just weird to say the Hornets offense. But they need a perimeter shooter to, especially when you have Al Jefferson commanding double teams game in, game out. They need someone that can stretch the floor and knock down shots for when Al Jefferson commands those double teams. I feel that Nick Stauskas will fill that need, and he's someone who can contribute now. The Hornets were a playoff team last year, and they need someone that can contribute now and get them to the next level. He's obviously the draft's best shooter, shooting 44% from three-point range. He can spot up and shoot off the dribble, and being 6'7", he'll be a big two-guard. And he's got a nice resume coming out of college. He played a key role in Michigan's national title 2 years ago, and when Trey Burke and Tim Hardaway Jr. left for the NBA, and when Mitch McGary got hurt all season, Stauskas still led Michigan to a Big Ten title and almost got them to the Final Four. They lost to Kentucky in the last few seconds of the game. So this might be kind of the reach. This is kind of my shocker. It's not as shocking as your picks, but this is my shocker because, his defense will be an offensive obvious liability, but a type of player Stauskas is will fit perfectly into the Hornets' plans for what they need to take their team to the next level.
So the only thing I want to clarify again, the Charlotte Bobcats are now the Charlotte Hornets. All right, there we go. And the reason why I had Jabari Parker go first for the Philadelphia 76ers first pick in the top 10 pick. They have the number 10 to close out the top 10, and they have the luxury to really play around with these picks. You can either go with a shooter first or a big first. This is why I think that they go a big later. They really want to go for Andrew Wiggins or Jabari Parker at that number 3. And this is why I think you have the luxury to go for Adrian Payne or maybe a Julius Randle if he's still there. But I'm going to go with the foreign players right now. You have two of them, Daro Sanic, the Croatian, and then you have Joseph Nurkovic. I think they're going to go for either one of those. They really compare Nurkic to the size of DeMarcus Cousins, Joakim Noah. I really think this is when they're going to go for a big at this time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually have them choosing Joseph Nurkic. Yeah, you mentioned he has the type of measurables and size of DeMarcus Cousins. Yeah, he's also it's kind of like DeMarcus Cousins mixed with Nikola Pekovic, if you will. But I feel like, I agree, they're going to draft one of the international players, and I feel like they need a big Joseph Nurkic. He's a 6'11", 280-pound prospect out of Bosnia. And I think the 76ers need some bulk to complement Nerlens Noel. His size gives him potential to be a great post defender in the league. He's projected as a second-best center in the drafts. Scouting reports say that he's really agile for someone nearly 300 pounds. He has a pretty crafty post game, and he'll only be 20 years old when the season starts, so there's a lot of room for him to grow. And since the 76ers aren't going to be competing for them in the near future, gives them a lot of time as well. And looking at the starting lineup they'll have now, if they have Parker or Wiggins, they'll also have Michael Carter-Williams, Thaddeus Young, and Nerlens Noel, which makes for an athletic run-and-gun type of squad. Bring in someone like Nurkic, someone big, 6'11", 280. It gives them more flexibility to a lineup. You can move Noel to a 4 to match up with bigger lineups, and it would improve their half-court offense as well.
With that lineup, can they potentially be over 20 wins next season?
With a healthy front court, actually, Nerlens Noel could get them to 21 wins.
I just hope a team doesn't trade for Ben Gordon again and lose a draft pick. I couldn't believe it. I had to read it twice, that the Pistons lost that 9th pick because they traded for Ben Gordon and Corey Maggette.
And that's why Joe Dumars stepped down as their team operations.
Well, they got two of the best bigs in the game. You got Andre Drummond and Greg Monroe. Andre Drummond dated that one girl from the Disney Channel. I mean, that's the one thing they got going for them.
Didn't he ask her out on a tweet or something? Or?
That's usually how my dates go. That or Tinder.
But you expected a lot out of Detroit after signing Brandon Jennings, Josh Smith, and to go with those two bigs. Like, I can't believe how pitiful they were this season. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they had no defense. Really no bench, too. I
agree.
I think they had, like, Tom Thibodeau come off the bench for them.
They had whoever their coach was come off the bench as well.
Who was their coach? It was Larry Brown again, was it?
I don't know, but they have Stan Van Gundy, also known as Ron Jeremy, to help run their team, and that's I feel like it's a big improvement, big upgrade for them. You know,
speaking of Van Gundy's, the reason why I hate watching the NBA playoffs is because I can't stand Jeff Van Gundy talking.
He's a character. That's why I prefer not to watch the games on ESPN. I love watching the TNT games, Chris Webber, Reggie Miller, all those guys. But the addition of Mark Jackson on the ESPN panel really makes it more exciting.
I usually put the television on mute, and I have my mom do the play-by-play for me.
Yeah, probably do better than Jeff Van Gundy.
It's very incoherent. I'm not sure what she is saying. It sounds like she's yelling at the cat the whole time. But Jay, thanks again for joining today, talking about the NBA lottery and giving our mock draft. Where can everybody find you on the interweb?
Yeah, please follow me on Twitter at JayKnowSports, JayKnowSports, and I also have a blog out there at jayknowsports.wordpress.com. Please check it out.
Check it out, or he's gonna.
Because I know my sports, according to my blog name.
Well, Jay, thanks for joining today. I appreciate it, and thanks for listening. This has been Sports District Radio. Follow us on Twitter at @SDistrictRadio. We are on the web, sportsnews.com. Like us on Facebook at Sports District Radio. I am Ryan Newman. This has been Sports Talk with an A.